stage. We'll see if we know what's even. What we got to do the American flag background today. So, okay, everybody, we are live. Welcome to the Health Tech Talk Show. Here we are. We have Brendan Keeler and Maggie O'Keefe on the show today. Also, Melissa, who's always in the show, always our boss. And we have an incredible news show for you because a lot happened since we did our last news show. So we're going to kick these guys off. We got a lot going on. Former President Trump got shot. Baby dog showed up on stage. So many things happened.
Baby dog.
So many things happened.
Sure.
So
the best thing in that entire live broadcast, everyone, was baby dog.
Okay. Like, I kind of agree. Like, okay. All right. So, Melissa, anything to say before we kick you off and I make Lisa comment on the news?
I just see that we're live on all platforms. Michael Marchant is telling me that we're good. So,
oh my gosh.
And it's awesome. Yeah, we're good.
I'll tell you what, this upgrade was
we're getting so we're almost professional now.
It is almost actually happening. I'm
we're like a real, not just an amateur show anymore per se.
Yeah. You can drop me. I'm just gonna keep on throwing out like really cool, comments that people are putting on.
Okay. Melissa's gonna do comments. Yeah. And just so everybody knows, when we say this is a $0 budget talk show, I was doing our books yesterday. We are negative $4,000 on the talk show, and it still is low production value. So anyway, just in case anyone is curious how much it costs to look this bad. That's it, $4,000. So, all right, here we go. All right, Lisa, let's do the news show. What's going to happen today? Oh my God. All right. So like we said, former President Trump was shot. That was wild. The RNC continues on with things like this. And baby dog.
No comment, no comment.
Okay. I just want to say, like, I don't care what side you're on. Like, things are crazy, and there's is Biden gonna drop out? Like, who's gonna replace him if they do that? Oh my God, what's gonna happen? Trump and his how he converted his assassination attempt into the most incredible photo op of ever.
Listen. As former PR coordinators,
retired,
we are experts, and we can tell you that. The absolute sense of timing, of imagery, it's just unparalleled. I mean, this is
I can't even handle it.
This is a PR success, not to make light of a extremely serious and crappy
assassinations are serious.
For real thing, real problem. But if you take that away, what an incredible PR moment this entire week has been for everyone involved. And truly, I can only imagine what it looks like to be on the outside of America right now going, holy crap, what are these people doing? Wow.
God bless America is all I have to say about that. We're gonna do some, Lisa, we're gonna have some smart analysis when we figure out what's going on with everything. And it's gonna be good. So you guys just wait. All right. So the other exciting, smart thing that went on is our great friends at the Office of the National Coordinator for Health IT. You can find all their material at healthit.gov. Put out this survey, which I guess they've done for several years now, about awareness of TEPCA, plans to participate from hospitals and all that. So basically, the nut of this is more hospitals said they know what TEPCA is, and more said that they were going to participate. Sounds like.
Well, I mean. You might think that. I think if you go into a little more details, what you'll see is that, there's still a pretty intractable group of providers and hospitals who are like, no, I don't care. And the way to reach those is, of course, through different types of partnerships and partners at the local level. It can't be a final outcome that we just say, well, a quarter will never participate, right? So if we really want to meet these goals, we have to do more things to reach all the different players across the country, even those folks who are like, don't know, don't care.
Yeah, I see up here with a little star. 1 in 4 hospitals were not aware of TEPCA with no change in awareness from 2022. Bummer. This is hard though. So they are making an increase, and in our world, Lisa, as people who maximize, all things, or we're not maximizers, we're satisficers. At least I am, huh?
We're satisficers.
The 80-20 rule. I mean, if you're getting 80% and you've got a long tail, I actually feel like this is pretty good. I do wonder if because like Epic's in charge, like, you know, they're just like all their hospitals are going to do it, like whatever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a benefit too. But yeah, I don't know. So this was kind of exciting. I mean, yeah, I agree. If they're going to get the long tail, they're going to have to do a lot of different stuff to get the long tail. And then of course, you know, they're the 25% that don't know if they're really going to do it, from 20. That's a pretty big jump though, right? There was 23% that didn't know they're going to, and now only 9% who are aware now. So that, like, I don't know, this is like, you know, I don't like math, especially survey math, because in my world, if someone pays me to do a survey, you better fucking believe that survey is going to say whatever I want it to say. So yeah, like it's hard to know. But I would like to think our great federal government is a little bit more legit about surveys than me. So other thing I thought was interesting here, basically they're saying all these acute care hospitals, actually, more of them are connected to state, regional, and local networks.
And this was the case in 2021, as you can see, as well as in the most recent survey. And, you know, this is part of my basic stump speech, which is like, hey, there's really not in the United States of America one particular pathway to getting health information. There are multiple, and that's because healthcare is super complicated with many different payers and partners and providers and all of the above. So like, this is okay. This is good. We want more. We want to get to 100. We want everybody to be connected in at least one way, if not multiple ways, to get the right information. Now we have a huge problem, as people know, that I like to complain about, and that is like how we actually use data at the point of care and also for public health and population health purposes. And there's a ton of work to do there to make it better and make it be more a deeper part of like the workflow and the culture of delivering care and also thinking about population health. But one of the first steps is getting people connected. More is better in my just from my perspective. And actually, Kat, I was going to tell you, if they wanted TEFCA to be like better understood and appreciated, they should call it something cooler than TEFCA, like Freedom.
Okay, that America, is true. There is a branding challenge.
America Freedom Data Network, Freedom Data, whatever. Call it something cool.
The Data Freedom Network? Jesus Christ.
Data Freedom Network. Think about it. Think about it.
Listen, Melissa, put it in a Asana ticket for Max to put together
Freedom Network.
TEFCA, now rebranded Data Freedom Network. Oh my God, Jesus Christ. With a flag, definitely with a flag behind it. Okay, great. Totally. Nice job, Lisa. Okay, A+. I'm actually really bad at names. My company, I named it Insena, and Leslie thankfully didn't change it when I sold it to her. And it actually autocorrects pretty much every time to insane. So I should not be in charge of naming things.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, the other thing I want to say about this is, like you said, Lisa, like just because something's like connected doesn't mean it like matters. I was just having a discussion with someone today about, basically like they were saying, Kat, it's not true that like when a SNF transfers a patient to a hospital that they have the chart stapled to their chest on the gurney. That's not true because there's an HIE mandate in the state. Everyone's connected. And I was like, no, listen, just because the connections, like the data's getting flung around, doesn't mean anyone's like actually using it or knows where to find it or anything like that. Like, I feel like that's the thing too. Like, as we always say, implementation matters. And even if the data is getting flung around, like, you know, like, is it mandated that they use it all in the same way? There's the same interface and the same integration?
It's a super important first step. Great. You got to lay the pipes. You got to connect the pipes. The water has to be flowing even theoretically. But then like where it actually goes inside of the hospital, who uses it, when, where, why, how, that stuff matters. And, you know, an implementation is even more complicated when you add other players who are not hospitals, weird, to this entire picture, right? And so I just like, again, like first step, important step, glad to see it, love to see it, keep it going, and call it something cooler than TEFCA.
Oh, we already solved that. We're going to listen. We're
I know.
We're going to send, I think Mickey just got rescheduled for the talk show. I think, Melissa, is he on Friday the 13th? September 13th. Thank God. That's such a good date. I love that that's what his team picked. We can present our marketing plan for TEFCA and we will definitely have the Data Freedom Network. Oh my God. Okay. Lisa, I put this in here for you. I am not union curious, but it looks like most Americans are.
Yeah, well, I mean, also, if we want to get back into politics, this is a very dangerous politics episode. The head of the Teamsters spoke at the Republican National Convention. And so sounds like the RNC is also union curious. Kat. You might have to jump in there and see what's going on.
I feel like I could sneak in. I will wear an American flag dress, and I can be
you
like,
really would though. You really would though. It would be amazing.
I can be like, hey, I fit in here. Could you guys tell me why the unions are here? I can see what's going on.
Who invited the president of the Teamsters here? What's going on? And I'd be
Listen,
like, union strong.
I will be taped here. Let's all vote libertarian. Let's vote for a third option. Who cares who the candidate is? We just are going to vote for the third option. Okay, moving on. Okay,
so for everyone, this is a nonpartisan, non-political, live TV show, whatever we are. The opinions represented here do not represent our employers.
Do it for baby dog, Lisa. Do it for baby dog. Do it for baby dog. Okay. All right. Okay. Anyway. Not good.
We just love dogs. We love dogs.
We do love bulldogs, especially. Okay, so this is like I feel like not actually news, but like it is news because the FDA is like actually thinking about it. Okay, so this is another hit on my Ozempic rant. We've got another slide in here about that too. Basically, it's like maybe ultra processed foods are bad. Now I'm anti-regulation, like pretty much in general. So I don't love that they want to like tell us we can't have Twinkies, but also like, these people are like thinking like maybe instead of pumping out drugs in the United States of America, we could like eat less Twinkies. I
don't know. Counterpoint, the FDA has way too much work right now and is not doing an amazing job. No offense, dear FDA friends, but like this.
Lisa says you are not doing an amazing job.
Sorry.
Moving on.
That's all right.
Okay. So this is like part of a preview. Also, the fact that I made this slide deck approximately 40 minutes ago. What like Lisa and I are gonna have like really smart things to say when we know who actually gets elected here. But it does look like, in general, Trump is gonna not regulate as much. So the world says. So things might change for Medicare. Last week we had a lovely guest on our show who talked to us about the fact that there are, and I think Lisa, you agreed, there's like too much regulation on Medicare right now, and it's changing.
I've really taken it to heart. I've been thinking, and I think in light of friend of the show, Alia, just noted that she finished reading all like 1,100 pages of HTI-2, which I'm sure a guest in a moment is going to tell us more about as well, Brendan Keeler. But like I'm taking that to heart, and I really feel worried about the incredible burden of yearly updates to health IT, CMS, payment, ACO. Like it's a lot for these organizations to take on right now. And also there's really this weird thing where, they're like, oh, well, it's okay, because we put the due by date out to like 2028. And I'm like, that's actually not better, right? This means you're like living with it, like hanging over your head. Like, when can I schedule this work? And then you're like, and maybe it will change before that. Maybe someone will write a new regulation, or they'll pass a new law, or they'll scrap this regulation. And then I did all this thinking for nothing. And like,
that's what I'm talking about. I love it when they say this isn't going to happen until like 2028, because I'm like,
it's not
there's a lot of time for us to change that.
See, everyone, if you're worried, like if you're in the space, like take the warning from Kat, who is a operative who will scuttle your regulation by 2028.
No, I would never do that. But I would say to our great federal regulators and state regulators, you're dealing with people like me. So if you don't want your things to get overturned, this is what we're all thinking. We're sitting around with our wine and we're texting each other like, well, that's not going to happen. So, give us as little room as possible, as what I would suggest to you if you care about your regulations. If you don't care about them, even better. Okay. This is more basically FYI, not eating Twinkies is better for you than taking diabetes drugs. Just in case people are curious to know. I'm going to stop. Okay, Lisa, you want to talk about Elevance?
Yeah, I mean, Elevance has had a couple of losses on the contract side recently. I probably should do some Google searches before I say this, but I think they were the ones who lost out on the new contract for CalPERS. Just as one example, I didn't know there were others. Medicaid is a tough place right now, right? You had people being kicked off the rolls, then you had people needing more care. God, how dare people use healthcare? God,
that's right, so Lisa, annoying. That's right. So the actual stat on this, I'm having trouble finding it because I didn't want to copy and paste it directly.
Only read the headline.
I only read headlines anyway, but the summary of this was like, it's like a third, they're losing like a third of their members in churn. And unfortunately for them, with money, the members that they retained, and a lot of this was through redetermination and things like that. The members that they retained were unfortunately the sicker members, and the ones who were healthier were the ones that were rolled off. So bomp, bomp, bomp. And we're seeing a lot of this, right? Kind of across the board that health plans are taking on more than members are sicker. So bummer. This is another thing, Lisa, that I feel like you'd like. I don't know. I don't remember if you sent this to me or someone else said it somewhere, but basically what they're saying here is when hospital prices increase, they lay more people off and reduce wages. So like bummer. So guess what, America, guess what, everybody, when you raise prices, not always the greatest things happen. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like that. It's just for 1 second on the hospital prices.
Oh, we're going back. Should we stay on this slide? Because I love this slide.
We just love to look at it. So basically, like, you know, there's price increases, and then there's this like problem. We've been like kicking the can down the road forever on the sort of lack of transparency in price. And there've been, of course, a bunch of regulatory fixes and laws and things like that, but we still haven't reached a place where you can go into a hospital and get a accurate bill or estimate in any way, shape, or form, or get an accurate bill afterwards, or not be improperly billed. Like, where all those things go together with just the burden of increasing cost as well. And, you know, this is something that I anticipate the next administration is really going to have to deal with. This is my first smart thing to say about the next administration is like, this stuff is like very front and center. We cannot keep kicking the can down the road on this.
Boom. Love it.
Now to something more fun.
All right.
Anish Chopra.
Okay. So we really, when we say President Anish Chopra, like we love him, just to be clear. I love that this guy, former CTO of the United States of America,
like about this.
He is still like real news.
Anish, who does
like their guy?
Is it you? Because you're amazing.
I think he does it himself.
Incredible.
Like, I think it's just like, he's just there. Like, so they like, I mean, he's pretty good too. He's pretty good on camera. And one of the other reasons we have this in here. So just to be clear, what Anish said, the nugget of all this was, he was basically like, this shit's a wake up call. I mean, he didn't say it that way. I said it that way, but yeah. So the former CTO of the United States of America, relatively famous, may still operate as the CTO of the United States of America in some capacity.
I think he's just doing it. He's just there.
I think he's just doing the job. I think no one's doing the job, so he's like, I'm doing the job. So God bless Anish. And the other reason we have him on here is because
the Oprah of
he is kind of the Oprah of health IT. Oh my God. So how do we get this comment up here? Like,
I don't know. I just tried, but I failed.
There we go. Everybody loves him. But I will say one of the reasons we wanted to put this up here is, in his beautiful face, is because actually Michael Marchant, who is our new unpaid correspondent, his next Mike on the Street video features Anish. So I watched approximately 5 minutes of it. So, and that's pretty far for me since I only read headlines, and it seems pretty good. So we will release that probably in the next few days, most likely. Yes. So
amazing. Yeah. So yeah, obviously, if you haven't heard it, the whole internet worldwide is down, except for what you're watching.
Yeah, but you know what's not down? The talk show. So
not down. Talk show's still here.
Yes, that's all I gotta say about that. Okay, moving on. Okay, so other things. This is just bullshit, and then we're gonna get to our real guest. So we are going to the following places soon, and allegedly we will be doing talk shows there. We actually have one on here that we just got texted about, so that's exciting. But Health Data Palooza, y'all should go. I'm on the planning committee, which may or may not have been a mistake by conference organizers, but I'll be there. You should too. There is a strong possibility we will throw one of our interesting dinner parties at Health Data Palooza. Lisa will be there. I will be there. It's going to be amazing. We will throw a party, and you should go. If you don't go to the conference, you can't come to our party. That's what I have to say about that. We're going to health. They let us in. What? So we'll be doing some live shows at Health USA. We were just at Health Europe. And then I'm speaking in Poland.
No, you're not. You're in Barcelona, but also.
Oh shit! I'm in Barcelona. This was in Poland last year. It's in Barcelona this year.
I like how Kat skipped literally the conference of the organization that employs me, Civitas Networks for Health, October 15th to 17th in Detroit. Be there or be square. Come to our conference. It's gonna be amazing.
Lisa, you didn't give me a promo image. You didn't give me a promo image. Like, and you also didn't say that we're doing the talk show there at your own conference. You haven't said we're doing the talk show at your own conference.
We're doing the talk show.
Here's me. Here's me, the girl who does the decks.
Ooh.
Okay.
Y'all. What a week.
All right. Let's bring a real guest on the show. Thank God.
Thank God. Hi, Brendan.
What is happening? That was wild ride. I love it.
More unhinged than normal. It has been quite a week.
Okay, no, listen, before you start saying smart things, Brendan. So everyone who is an old-timey fan of the Health Tech Talk Show, which by the way is less than 1 year old, was conceived randomly in September of 2023. Brendan was actually our first guest. Now, many remember we actually couldn't figure out how to go live that day. But he was, in fact, our first guest. And you can access the recording where he said some smart things. I think like we randomly brought Tom Novak in. Like I think he brought his dog. I'm not really sure.
I thought we were just like jamming, like, oh, we're getting cool people together, like one of your interesting dinners, but like
we still
webinar.
Are.
But on the internet, and now look at us. We are a media empire that is negative 4,000.
Well, not if you count the value of conference registrations. We are positive.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we have immense value. Yeah, totally.
You have to spend
so
money
Brendan,
to make money.
That's right.
That's right. What I mean. Let's hope that's true because we are spending it. Okay, so Brendan, you're like interoperability hero. Everyone on the internet knows you. I was just traveling with a large company and they said, you have Brendan Keeler on the show, that guy. And I was like, I know, I do. Never mind Mickey Tripathy. We have Brendan Keeler. So
yeah, they're like, Brendan's way more important than Mickey.
They're like, well, Mickey would supersede me if he just did a few more memes. You know, Owen's HTI2 would be way cooler with like a Doge in there or something like that. You know,
do you want? You know, we're gonna send you our Freedom Data Network or Data Freedom Network marketing packet, and maybe we can present it to him together. We'll see if you're
Freedom Data Network.
I'll spice it up. I'll spice it up.
We'll see what happens. But so introduce yourself, Brendan, because you do a lot of things, and I think you just got a new job, right, or something. So like, tell us all the things. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. So I'm Brendan Keeler, Portland, Oregon based, but man of the USA and the world. I worked at Epic. I worked at Redox. I worked at that's exactly that eagle right there.
I feel like you needed more.
A lot of inputs. And I worked at Zeus Health and before moving to HTD Health. I worked at Flexpa. And so I worked in interoperability my whole career, every kind of angle of it, business associate applications, patient applications, provider groups, and the health information networks. And so I write a stupid Substack about it, Health API Guy.
It's great.
Lisa sometimes edits. She's an awesome editor, and you know that's me. I love dogs. I love eagles and fire.
That's right. Yeah,
I'm a Philly guy, so I do love eagles. I love go birds.
I'm glad. It's going to be a key part of branding for the Freedom Data Network. So get excited for that. So Brendan, your Substack is not stupid. In fact, I feel like when I do some douchey LinkedIn post about something I hate, and everybody's like, you don't even know what you're talking about. I'm like, look at the article this guy just wrote. Basically says it. So
we back each other up.
Yeah, I feel like you just happen to come in at the right time saying the right thing. So that's fantastic. But so I feel like we have 1 million things to ask you about. Like, which list of things you want to talk about? Yeah, Lisa,
I guess, Brendan, do you think, our working theory right now, and what we're hearing from other guests over the last couple of weeks is just like, it's a lot. This is a lot. Like we were saying, this is a 1,000-page new rule, HTI2. You know, their timeline, as you well know, is real short because we're coming up against that. Like, you can't finalize a rule like a minute before the next administration, or they're going to toss it out. We've seen that happen before. I mean, you know, the Biden administration and the current sort of version of ONC have a lot of really big goals around, you know, moving interoperability forward through regulatory action. Like, what are your thoughts about that? Do you feel like it's too much? I know you've already identified things in the post that I'm editing that talks about things that are probably going to get tossed out. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So for those not familiar with it, HTI2 proposed rule came out, as mentioned, this past week. Lisa, myself, other people have just been reading nonstop because it's long and it is a lot. It's way bigger than the HTI1. It is bigger than the Cures Act final rule. So it's bigger than like the one that was explicitly Congress like, go do this. So like that's a weird facet, but it just shows that this is the arc of the naturopathy, ONC. Like this is what they were building to with HTI1, and the things they kind of wanted to get done and had to push with HTI1 to get enough industry feedback, to get enough movement on implementation guides. And I imagine they were kind of banking, or still kind of banking on another Biden administration or another Democratic administration where there's a lot of continuity. Aren't these pauses that may or may not happen. As you guys noted, it's just too crazy. And so like between the political craziness and then the series of things that have happened in the last 4 weeks, just when I go on vacation, everyone goes on vacation. It's been like, I'm in France and my wife's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm reading healthcare regulation. She's like, stop it, you nerd.
Dear Lord, not again. He's like, this old thing.
Yeah, I read the CMS during my paternity, the CMS 0057 during paternity leave, and she wasn't psyched about that. But it is really unlikely in the terms of an administration change of getting this done and finalized is the big takeaway.
Right.
Like HTI1 took much longer than 3 months because we have a 60-day comment period, and then they can go and rush to get it finalized. Has to be reviewed by the OMB. There's just all these processes, and so the really likely outcome is that, it goes into the next administration, it goes into a Trump administration or Biden or
who knows
Harris. Yeah,
mystery. Who can say a mystery?
The Libertarian Party.
Let's be clear. If we think the RNC was lit, the DNC is going to be super lit.
Oh my God. I mean, honestly, it's going to be nonstop headlines. So, on that note, one of the other interesting things about HTI2, like you said, it's bigger, literally bigger, but it's also bigger in scope in that the goal is to, just like the goal is to move ONC into a coordinating role across health and human services over time and expand that purview. The goal with this additional regulation is to kind of, like you kind of said, sort of finish that job that they tried to start with HTI1, and that is bring more types of IT systems into the certification process that ONC, like from a legislative mandate, from a statutory mandate, is in charge of. But like the other underlying point there is that, it's really annoying, let's just say nicest way to be certified health IT or certified IT system. There's all kinds of gates and things you have to follow and requirements that change all the time and third parties you have to, attest through and all that good stuff. It's a real hassle. It's the nicest way to put it. So like, what's the motivation? Like, why does the industry want to be certified by this unknown?
We don't want to do anything.
Right. Like, yeah. Kat is like, no. Like, why do you want it? Like, what's the motivation? Like, how does this play out?
Go ahead.
If I was the biggest vendor, I would be all about certification. Not saying any large EHR vendors have ever pushed certification. Right. So you'd wipe out half your competition. Like that's why we're into it. But I would say in general, we're not into it.
Yeah. I mean, regulation raises the minimum bar, right? Like if you need, unless it's really artfully designed, you need X resources, and that X will be equally applied for vendor 1, vendor 2, vendor 3. And with HTI1, with the certification program, the criteria are the same regardless of vendor size. And so if you're a small, shitty, specialty EHR, and you're like, CDS hooks, oh no, fire like subscriptions, you might be like, this is too much, I'm going to retire. And so you see with this minimum bar, you see a culling over the course of different iterations of certification. And that certainly leads to a migration to incumbents. That is a conscious choice. And there's this whole regulation bad or good. It's not that. It's just a conscious choice of the competitive vector is no longer EHRs, but the ancillary applications that surround them and curating the ecosystem where they can just build. That's definitely enabled by this, as well as can we decrease burden is the mandate from Cures, is the specific piece that HTI 1 and 2 latch onto, that they believe by pulling in public health vendors and pulling in payer vendors that they can decrease administrative burden. And so does that stand up? Is that real? I think so. I mean, prior auth sucks and these things suck. And so digitizing them definitely reduces burden, but at the cost of less choice in the EHR world, potentially.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's all true in the same time that there are, as we know, very large players in the EHR world in health IT. you know, I can't tell one of those large EHR vendors what to do with their businesses, but I don't think they should go into like certified health IT for like public health. Like that's a really crummy business, for example. So like even a large player in the EHR world, like isn't going to be able to cover that entire landscape. And then you're like, you just said, you're really limiting who can actually enter, who can be in there, because we're raising the floor. We're making sort of a minimum level requirement, minimum level of capitalization, minimum level of expertise. That is, you know, I mean, again, I'm sounding more and more like a libertarian every day here, but really like limiting innovation. Look at Kat, she's all drink. I did it. I converted another one.
It's just Topo Chico.
Topo Chico.
So the trade-off is, and they're saying, you know what, like the die is cast. Even with us doing no regulation, EHRs are kind of consolidating. So if we want to stop that, the answer is not regulation or not. It's like, let's go antitrust, like Seth Joseph of Forbes has written.
Can we talk about antitrust? Can we talk about that? Like, what are you thinking? I saw there was a comment on here. There's some comment chatter between you and Michael here that was like, who are your top peeps who you think are going to get hammered with the antitrust?
I mean, it depends on, again, administration change. There'll be different prerogatives. Antitrust, like, is actually something that Vance, under, you know, like the new pick, has been very vocal about. And so if you believe that the government's suddenly like laissez-faire, no, my friends, like that's not the case. They'll target big tech, but like in our world, if that's applied, then you can make a case for Epic. People have. I don't think it's true necessarily, but like by certain metrics, they're over 50% of, you know, inpatient lives and things like that. And so Seth has written about this in Forbes. Like he writes out the full case in a 2-part article. So go Google antitrust Seth Joseph. But I don't know if that happens or not. But if you want that outcome of more competition in the EHR world, that's the lever you potentially pull, and not regulation, because the outcome of breaking up Epic or whatever and is having a more fragmented EHR ecosystem, and the lives of ancillary applications become shittier. So it's like those vectors, you choose one or the other.
So that makes sense. Before we run out of time with you, we have some more time. I just wanted to make sure we cover the ongoing / never-ending drama in the national networks in the non-Freedom USA network. Tell me,
the other ones.
Like what can you catch us up on? We've pushed a bunch of people towards your blogs about this. They were really good rundowns of what actually happened with care quality and the other players, but like, where are we now? Like, I think things are still happening underneath the surface. Pretty sure I'm right.
Well, we don't know because there's no transparency, right? We have no freaking idea what's happening. Like, we only know because we're on the Shadow Network. Like, that's all we know. What's happening, Brendan? Do you know anything?
Right. So when we moved to Freedom America USA Network, it's transparent everything.
It's like a self-provider. It's like one of those prepaid self-providers for sure. Like, it's for sure called Freedom USA, Freedom Network. Like, for sure.
But you know, so Care Quality had in April the Particle versus Epic fiasco. They've been dealing with that behind the scenes and figuring out for their own purposes in that trust framework the go forward path. And it's not clear where that's landed. I think there's some semblance of like more operational exchange for a lot of the particle, you know, organizations and such. TEFCA took notice, right? The ONC took notice, and the SOPs have a lot of material that are directly related to what is this new concept of a delegate, which takes the place of the OBO sort of exception to treatment. What are, how are the disputes handled? There's stuff in HTI2 that relates specifically where they cement in and say, here's the relationship between the ONC and the recognized coordinating entity and the QHINs. And so like, there's a lot of movement and there's a lot of stuff in HTI2 where that secretly lays the foundation for the TEFCA roadmap, for TEFCA use cases for public health, for TEFCA use cases for payer to provider exchange. So ONC is like throwing.
Secret, it's just on page 897. So you got to get to 897 before you can know.
Definitely not secret.
Basically.
Yeah.
Right. But like
summaries.
Sorry, say that again?
Oh, I'm just saying, I just wait for you guys to write the summaries, and then I say things very proudly and confidently on talk shows. It makes me sound like I know stuff. So content on Monday. But overall, TEFCA is progressing. They're taking the learnings to heart, and they want to build the paved pathways. They want to allow for the broader use cases, and they want to make sure that in the inevitable event that there's some abuse, there's some dispute, that there's governance that can handle that gracefully and handle that in a way that isn't
like us all running around being like, what the hell? Oh my God, Epic versus Particle. And that can't happen again.
So we're building the plane while we're flying it, is what you're saying.
I know it.
Just like any good iterative agile process. Yeah, that's
right.
So we got a very painful comment.
Waterfall.
We got a good comment here I want to address that was based on y'all's discussion about like should EHRs do the public health thing, and actually so this is from friend of the show, Carol Robinson, Washington State, going to do some Epic stuff. I have actually heard through interviews with a lot of public agencies across the country in different states, like this is also a thing, like they're totally doing this. I don't know if it's reactive to the market or if it's an actual like on your toes kind of play, but it is interesting.
So I will say more broadly, Epic has we all know this, Epic has saturated the inpatient market and has iterative gains to continue for inpatient, for ambulatory. So what are they doing? They have everyone's focused on like their vendor services and like that stuff. I'm like, that's not that's interesting, but like only intellectually. The actual thing is they're really targeting payers. They're really targeting with Aura lab systems. They're really targeting these public health agencies and med device things and building software that's not like, ooh, here's your lab information system necessarily. They say, maybe you have one, but we're going to bring you into the network. They're building network effects with all these other ancillary players that, in some ways it's competitive with TEFCA. In some ways, is another path parallel to TEFCA because it's building infrastructure, national infrastructure between these different players. That's super interesting to watch because if you believe, I don't follow any other, but if you believe that Epic is blocking interoperability, Epic is blocking TEFCA, then that is why, because they want to go sell these things. But I personally don't believe that, but I'm a homer for Epic. We all know this, but that's the narrative arc is like, go look at the payer platform, go look at Aura for labs, go look at the med device one when they launched that, the thing that they're going to launch for pharma.
Yeah, agreed.
I think so if I can sum up what you're saying about the national networks dispute stuff, it's that it seems like all the players are just saying like, okay, never mind, we're just going to try and accelerate this shift to TEFCA. We're just going to try and accelerate the shift and see and put as much as we can in sort of guidance and rulemaking, whatever else it is that supports the governance and maybe stops some of this from happening in the future.
It's the best compelling event, right? Like crisis is the best way to focus people and get shit done. And so
never waste a good crisis.
Never waste a crisis.
So like I think that's why we see acceleration. Will it work? I think if you think there's going to be administration change, then, and if Dr. Rucker, who I think was on here one time, if he comes back, like
sure was.
Healthcare is bipartisan. Healthcare is bipartisan, but aspects of healthcare technology regulation are not. And in this case, TEFCA has a slight partisan bent where it's progressed quite a bit under the Biden admin and Mickey Tripathi, under the Trump admin and under Dr. Rucker. It did not, and that was directly not in line with the timeline set by the Cures Act. So the proof is out there, and I'm just saying, if there were an admin change, we could see a similar slowdown or reversion of the progress there.
Yeah, very interesting.
So I have two kind of, I have one observation that I'm hoping you confirm, and then I have one dumb question for you, and then we have an announcement we have to make from a fan of the show who text messaged me. So the first thing is, I actually think that ONC is doing a nice job of like pushing as hard as they can to address these things with the new Freedom Data Network, aka FKA TEFCA. Our friends in the government can't be like our friends in the private sector who they tell us all their secrets and stuff. But they've said things like, "Oh, Kat, we can provide guidance and we can do this and we can do that." And I actually think they have done a lot of that, and I'm interested in your perspective on if they've gone far enough or if they're doing enough.
I think they are pulling every single lever that is available to them by the regulatory authority that they have today. And I applaud the creative ways that they've done it. Like, it's truly like HTI2, it's a work of art, the things they put in there to make TEFCA real. And they've done so much more with HTI1 and other angles. And so the collaboration with the CDC, like all the things they've done, it's coming to fruition. So I think they're doing a great job. Yeah,
it's dear federal regulators, it's actually impressive what you're pulling off. So A+, love it. The second question I have that may or may not be useful is if you could make the Freedom Data Network or TEFCA an animal, what animal would it be?
Oh man. Oh, that is like an octopus with like many legs spreading in every direction, sort of waving around, but like very intelligent. It's very intelligent animal.
We have a lot of raccoons here, and I have been taking amazing. We have cameras outside of our house, so don't try to break in. And we take incredible. We only use them to video the shenanigans of the raccoons in our neighborhood. So I'm gonna give it to them. They have thumbs. They do amazing stuff. They also like trash.
Yeah, so. I think thumbs is key. Yeah.
Data trash.
Works too. I think that works too. Okay, important announcement that Brendan, you should stay on for. Our friend Stefan Kanya, who I always introduce as the head of innovation for HHS, and he always tells me that is not in fact his title. He says, we have new roles for CTO, CDO, and Chief AI Officer roles on LinkedIn. Please spread the word. And I said, can I say this right now live? And he says, thumbs up. So we'll post this on our thing. Go to Stefan, his name is spelled Stephen for all y'all, Kanya, Kony on the LinkedIn. He has shared all those job postings or that they're going to be available. It sounds like they'll be on USA Jobs in the near future. So
USA Jobs, just like the USA Data Network.
I did not totally leak this. This was approved, and apparently this is a LinkedIn post. So you could be a part of America's future.
Yeah,
be a hero. Join the government.
That's right. Be a leader. All right, Brendan. Any parting words? What do you want to say? What do you want to say to our loyal fans?
Get those comments in there. We got 60 days.
That's right.
Well,
60
it's
days,
not public from the date that it's published on the published Federal Register, which it's not yet, but it will be. USCDI v5 just dropped today, like an hour ago. Go check that out. And other interoperability news that we cannot talk about for various reasons, but there's lots. So
cool.
It's all happening. It's all happening soon. Allegedly not until Tuesday of next week, but we're excited.
Cool. Thanks,
well,
you guys.
we never know timing.
Amazing.
All right. Thanks, Brendan. You're the best. All right. Moving on. We have Maggie O'Keefe, who is my favorite chief product officer, product lead. And Lisa, you haven't spent enough time with Maggie, but Maggie and I read
Maggie, how could I not? Like,
everybody
we know each other.
Everybody knows all. Yeah, you know each other. You might be the same person, like in my heart. And so Maggie and I met working in the trenches of a delightful startup, Collective Medical, where we worked 17 hours a day, and we were happy about it. And she is on the show today because I just wanted to talk to her, but also Maggie's currently on the tail end of maternity leave for her second child. And we talk often about the difference between mentors and sponsors and how to break into health tech and how you can help people who maybe are from more disadvantaged backgrounds get into things. So all three of us are super into this. We all support Zoria Foundation in some way. Maggie is actually, I think she may be our first donor ever to Zoria. And so this is when we posted on the internet and all of a sudden I got a donation. I was like, what the hell? So I think all of us really care about that. So Maggie, just tell us about your whole journey, because it's actually super interesting. You've done a lot of wild things, and just tell us kind of how you got here.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great intro, because basically I'm Taylor Swift's high school friend. I'm Kat McDevitt's pre-famous friend. So I'm excited to be here in that role of, I think her name's Abigail. But anyway, my journey is sort of very convoluted, but it all sort of tracks back to my first job after college, which was I did Teach for America and taught elementary school on the Pine Ridge Reservation, which at the time was the poorest community in the United States. And that really sort of set me up for what do I want to do with the rest of my life? The thing that I do is sort of ask every day, am I doing the most that I can to sort of make the lives of but people, right? My students and their families, more like the lives of people I went to college with, of people in my network. And so that has looked so many different ways. I did not have this, deep love of TEFCA and HTI2 and just know I was going to get here at the end of the day, right? But I sort of said, what's next? I went to work at nonprofits. I said, we're using all these resources. I don't know if we're doing it the best, but I don't know what the best way to do it is. Someone must have developed a skill set here. Went back to grad school and got a master's in public health, focused a lot on biostatistics. And of course, I come from this background working with children and underprivileged minority children. And so started working for Medicaid, right? And that was as far as nonprofit away from nonprofits as I ever thought I would go. And then I got this phone call. I was working for Medicaid in North Carolina from a classmate sort of saying, hey, I'm working for this startup, this health tech startup. It's called Health Catalyst. They're in Utah. Do you want to like come work for us? And I was like, what? No, like corporate America, like no. And instead sort of started having conversations and was like, oh, wait, this is really cool, really mission driven. And sort of over the last decade or so, I've undergone this total transformation where I completely understand now, like the power of technology, right? And how scaling that can have the biggest impact on all these communities that I think, you know, me and Kat and Lisa care about deeply. So that's sort of.
Here you are. And then you got recruited. You made a decision from the heart, not from the head, to join Collective Medical and work 17 hours a day.
Yes, which was a great, great decision. But really,
that's right.
Yeah,
it totally was. But so I think, you know, what's interesting about your career, right, is you were doing all this like bleeding heart stuff. And, you know, Maggie, we never would have met unless I was trying to sell you something at Medicaid.
You would have sold it great. Yeah.
I feel like we would have become friends anyway. But the reason we met is because like you had someone call you, right, and say like, I think, you know, like someone reached out to you. And so, you know, when we talk about Zoria Foundation and when we talk about like, how do we really help people out in the community, you know, women and underserved people in underserved communities, like, I think I've said before, like, oh yeah, like we should mentor people. And you were like, no, we're sponsoring people. So tell us about.
I'm not sure I said no. I mean, I think mentorship is great, right? But like, I think there's this big difference between these like mentorship programs, and I'm like the person that always historically gets signed up for them, and I feel like all uncomfortable on my Zoom or face-to-face meeting with a senior person who's like being told to mentor me. So I think mentorship is important, right? I think learning from others is important, and I certainly rely heavily on my network of mentors and peers right now when I'm making decisions. But I think what I've found, and this is not something that I've really understood early on, but sort of again just like stumbled into, but wish I had cultivated more, you know, consciously as I went through, is that every single sort of amazing experience I've had or sort of advancement and opportunity has come from being in places when I had amazing sponsorship. And so Kat is one of my great sponsors. That's why I get to be here today, right? And the difference is, right, mentors help you, they talk to you, they give you advice, but sponsors are people in those rooms that you're not in, right? The rooms that you want to be in, who are thinking of you, right? Who are amplifying things you've said in the past, right? Who are raising their hand and saying like, oh, Maggie might be able to do that, right? Or who are coming out of those rooms and saying like, hey, Maggie, did you know these two senior people really care about Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota? Don't you care about that, right? Go talk to them, go make that connection, go be part of that project. And I think that is just so key to advancement, especially as you get increasingly senior, but interested too. And I know Ken and Lisa, you guys have had lots of experiences on both sides of this.
Lisa, who helped you out?
No, I mean, I would just reflect on that. I think it's totally real, right? I've, throughout my career, which has been I've been in a bunch of different places had a couple different careers so far. I know I look like I am just a 21 and a couple months old, but truly it's been a while. I reflected that it's been 20 years since I did my MBA. Wow. And so, which is crazy. I was like, wait, what year is it? But my point is that I've had a lot of really great people who have not only mentored me, but also, like you said, sponsored me, like being willing to speak up for me or sort of reflect something or make a connection. And just the other day, I mean, I lead a nonprofit organization. We have a board, we have committees, we have members who are involved in different ways, including Kat, and including Point Click Care, I should say as well. And, you know, really, it means a lot when we sort of like try and tell our own story and make our own connections, but it means more when somebody else kind of does that for us and reframes it. Just the other day in one of our subcommittee meetings, just had a member really just really make a really powerful case for the work that we're doing and sort of the things we've tried to build over time. And it's hard when you're in the day-to-day work of that, like in the day-to-day work of membership organization and the health IT and quality improvement space, like we're doing a million different things every day. And there's a bigger picture. It is strategy. It didn't just happen randomly. And, you know, here we are, we're in this place. This is all about TEFCA/Freedom USA Data Network and all the quality improvement work as well. It's like our big thesis is that no matter what great work, you know, technology, health tech firms are doing, no matter what great work government folks are doing, you still need implementers at the state and local level. that was our theory and our thesis from day one. I have the proof. I have the decks we wrote where we're like, this is what we're going to try and do. And like having people on the outside, people who are our sponsors and our supporters kind of say like, yeah, you guys are doing that is like really powerful. It's more powerful than just us trying to continuously stump and make that case individually. And if you take it down to someone's individual career, even more so, right?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, Maggie, I've talked about this a ton. I think like also like I know you say like, oh, I'm your sponsor. Like Maggie, like I feel like you're my sponsor. Like I feel like we both like
too, Maggie. It's fine. I agree.
I feel like appreciating someone and like talking about them in rooms that they're not in, even if you're not like the same level or you're at the same level or like whatever it might be. Like I feel like that's really what it's about. And everybody knows I always talk about my sponsor who has recently embraced the fact that I call her my work mom. Miriam Paramore has always put me in rooms that I haven't been in. And it's been like really fantastic. So, but okay. So, question, Maggie. So we were talking earlier about this topic as we often do. And you were saying like, I was like, well, what's like, how can you boil down the difference? And like, and what can people do who want to find sponsors or get sponsors rather than just like, we were joking about the cold calling of mentors, which we sometimes all get. I think Lisa, we were talking about that too. Someone will email you and be like, I really want you to be my mentor. And I'm like, huh? But Maggie, how does one foster a sponsor?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's, for me, what it boils down to is sort of like two things, right? One is like showing up and working hard. And that isn't just like working hard in your little silo, right? But like everyone wants someone that helps them. And so some of the most effective times when I've ended up with a sponsor, right, is like I'm in a meeting, there's someone 2 levels, senior to me and diagonal in the organization. And they're sort of like, I don't understand this roadmap. Like, where are all the pieces? And, the correct answer is like, they're in Atlassian. Of course, they're perfectly categorized. Go read it there, right? But like this sales brain just wants it on a PowerPoint slide, right, in their format. And it's like, oh, I can spend 15 minutes, whip this up, send it over Slack, be like, hey, is this helpful? And like all of a sudden you've done a solid for someone. Or like in this 17-hour work days, right? Like being responsive, being there, saying yes, not like going down and delegating, right? But just getting something done that's helpful to this more senior person. I think there's actually a lot more opportunities to do that than sometimes we feel that there are as more junior folks as we're coming up through the organization. So that, right, like get noticed. And then the other thing is like everyone's a person, right? Everyone wants to be helped, but everyone kind of cares about themselves most of all and their personal interests. And, I think I was telling Kat earlier, but I spent a lot of my career in a very sort of Utah-based company with a lot of senior men that had a lot of children. And like one of my like things that I would always do is I would like had this notebook of like everyone's kids' names and ages. And I just like would remember. And so like when I'd see that guy on, the big account again and be like, oh, how was Ellie's viola recital or whatever it might be, right? And people are like, oh, this woman like remembers like my kids' names and like that they were doing that. Like, oh, she must be good at her job, right? And there's not like this direct correlation, although I do think a lot of being good at product is, right, making connections and telling stories and like connecting the dots. So not completely unrelated, but I think that, a lot of times we talk about these networks being exclusionary for women or junior folks who aren't out there on the golf course. Like you don't have to be at the golf course. You can just say like, how was Augusta? Was it as cool as it looks on TV, right? Like, what did you shoot? I don't even know what those numbers mean, but all of a sudden, right, like you're building those relationships. So, I'm sure there's a lot of other tips and tricks out there, but like it's really about like having that personal connection that makes the person think about you while they're in the room, and of course having the good work, like you talked about, Lisa, no one's sponsoring your guys's work because it's not actually good, to back it up.
Yeah. And I would also say one of the things that Kat reminded me of recently is that people really like to be invited to a party, just like
that's fucking right.
Or like to be invited to coffee or like whatever it is, whatever, like you're saying, Maggie, right? You can find ways to connect with people as you're building a career in health tech or anything else, right? Like those things do matter. It does not have to be the golf course. Although I've heard Melissa Danino is becoming very quickly a killer on the golf course, just saying.
She's golfing. She's taking lessons. She's doing stuff. So, I think a lot of this like applies to like business in general, right? Like and Maggie, what you're talking about, like, it's like what little thing can you do? You can help the salesperson who doesn't understand like a different structure of thought. Like you can do that for them, right? And that's like a little favor. And I think there's the Hack Your Bureaucracy book that I think we've talked about a bunch in the show too. They talk about the paperclip, right? Like what little thing do you have that you can trade up over and over and over? I use that like, I'm like a whale in a thimble of water. And sometimes when I like my little fins go outside the thimble, I'm like, oh, I don't know anyone in actually this whole industry that's like this whole sub industry. And it's like, what little thing can I do? And I feel like I'm always like paper clipping and trading up my paperclip. It's actually some guy's book. I forget what it's called, but totally agree.
Well,
totally
the
agree
other thing, if you're talking about health, not just healthcare, not just health tech, but other related industries as well, education's a great example too. The policy side, right? Unfortunately, like you can read thousands of pages of a regulation or a policy or a law, and it will take you a long, don't start with the 1,000-page one, start with a smaller one. And you can, with, some focus and your willingness to search around and try and get definitions for things and try and find the background and read the summaries as well. Like you can start to figure it out as a generalist. And that is extraordinarily useful information to have, especially if you're in a health tech company, but not just exclusively. Brendan wants to start with a 1,000-page one. I would say no, but that's fine. And that kind of information, it can make someone pretty useful pretty quickly also.
Yeah. Knowledge is power. So I want to talk about product for a second here, because I know we got like my favorite product person on. So, and Maggie, I know we're talking about like networking and sponsorship, and you're making yourself sound very humble. But you are like the most impressive product person I've ever worked with. And I think a lot of that is because you actually do have like experience working in the real world, right? You're not just some person that like popped into a tech company right out of college. Like, you know how things work. And you also are really good about getting feedback from both users and buyers and understanding how that stuff works. Just to prop you up, since I don't think you'll do it yourself and I am your sponsor. Okay, so like real fun questions for you. Like what is like when you meet a product person and it's like they're not effective? This could be like another company, like a peer. Like what are the top 3 most common things that you notice about them that make them unsuccessful?
I think going back to what Lisa said, like in healthcare, I think a lot of the product people I meet who I'm like, oh, I'm not sure this is going to work for you, are people that haven't come through healthcare, right? Like they don't understand that like, oh, the patient matching part of this is actually like really sexy and important. And like, you can't have interoperability in your beautiful, like patient-facing app, right? Like if you can't match Margaret O'Keefe to Margaret O''K, right? Like those little details. So I think some of it is just that experience. I think, honestly, my version of product is very much like listening and like making sure, that sounds so simple and stupid, right? But like the providers and users are super important, and like they don't have to use your product, right? It's not like an Instagram where like, oh, everyone's on there, they're going to have to go use it. I think that, really understanding, I happen to think one of my superpowers is I'm married to a physician. I've been married to him since he was a pre-med student. And so I've like gone through this whole trajectory, because I do think, right, getting provider adoption is so key for any of this to be meaningful, right? We were talking about like the water in the building, but not being used. How do you understand what kind of drinking fountain they actually want that they use today all the time, and like put the electrolytes in there? My analogies are really falling apart here, I think. But
no, but they need they need the dispenser where you put the water bottle underneath, not just like that's what they need. So they have a water bottle, right?
Yeah.
They don't just need sinks.
Water bottles.
And then my hard truth in product, I learned from Kat. Kat and I used to have a lot of fights where like I wanted it to be the best product, and Kat's big thing is, right, like the best product doesn't always win, right? Which is disheartening to me as a product person, but I think it's true, right? Like the maturation of like, how do you tell the story? How do you make the need clear in this marketplace that's often, right, has really unaligned incentives, or where you need your payer benefits, but the provider has to use it. And so buddying with your friends in marketing and sales, right, is super key. As well.
Nice. What's your favorite department? True answers only.
I mean, I love engineering. I'm like a product person who loves my engineer counterpart. Like I'd never take a job if I didn't want to be like married to that head of engineering. So, but it depends on the day.
Definitely marketing and sales, A+. Best product partners that there could possibly be on the planet. Oh my God. We're the best. We are number one. OMG. That is right. Okay. Well, Maggie, I'm looking forward to having you on the totally unpaid team that is going to develop the Freedom Data Network, which we will be presenting to Mickey Tripathi live on September 13th, 2024. Friday the 13th. It is going to be amazing. Brendan, glad you already signed up for it. Not sure that you know you did, but very exciting. We have a whole team here. It's not a problem. And the great thing is we have 2 retired PR girls on this team. So therefore it is going to be amazing.
The name is already amazing. So I feel like that's it.
Oh my God. So true. So we're out of time. So Maggie, last thing to leave our loyal followers with. What would you like them to know and remember and apply to their lives?
Man. I think care about other people, and actually it matters always.
Oh, that was good.
Nice. That was not as like, it doesn't really go with the vibe of your show, but and also that bulldog was really cute.
There you go. And the bulldog was and baby dog. Baby dog was really cute. We like baby dog.
Care about other people. If you're not doing it for Maggie, do it for baby dog. All right.
That's right.
God bless America. This was the best show. Talk to y'all later.
Thank you.